I'd like to talk about hand jive in skiing. One of the things that really throws people around and off is that the hands tend to be everywhere. They tend to swing and roll and reach for the sky and reach for the ground, and one hand in the pocket, one hand out here, and the pole plants go like this, and we face the downhill side. There's a lot of stuff there that's totally unnecessary, and when you move the hands, it moves the body out of whack quite often. So we want the hands to be very, very quiet, and the question is, what is that going to mean for us? A couple of things. It's neutral. The hands aren't twisted, contorted, out of alignment, or anything like that. What happens is the hands get lifted up. They're between hip height and waist height. The elbows are slightly in front of the body and away from the body. Now, I'm not going to be rigid this way, but this is the general area. And the reason that this is the general area is that this is neutral. It's just as far to move my hand out all the way as in all the way. So it's kind of halfway between everywhere is where I carry my hands. And what's important is to maintain that relationship that the hands have with the torso on the uphill side and the downhill side both. Because if I don't, what that indicates is I'm turning with my hands instead of my legs. If this hand starts to come across, it means I'm turning with the body rather than the feet. If this hand comes back, it may be as I'm leaning in. So I want to keep those hands out there. And people talk about going forward in skiing. Well, I want to go forward, but I don't want to go forward like this. People put their hands forward and their hips back. What I want to do is move my hands forward without unbending my elbows. The only way to do that is from the ankles so that I can get out there in front of the boots, right? And the hands can pull me into the turn this way. So quiet, neutral hands are really important. And that extends to the pole plant too. Most of the time people say, okay, I got my hands right, my elbow's bending, then all of a sudden they make a pole plant and they raise it, they twist it, they point it, they aim it, or they swing it out here, and the pole is, for all intents and purposes, the pole plant should come only from the wrist. All I have to do is release it and kind of cock my wrist this way, and that will put the pole exactly where it needs to go. I don't have to reach for it. I don't have to go anywhere for it. I don't have to twist my hand out or twist my hand in. It's just a simple movement of the wrist, puts the pole in for a touch of the snow. It's not really a plant anymore like it used to be. It's just touching the snow, and that will help trigger my turn, but mostly it'll help stabilize my torso as I tip over and change the edges. So pole work is really worth working on. Ski it on very, very green terrain. Ski a lot of turns just with very quiet pole plant. And notice when you start using all these other joints, or a roundhouse type of movement, or notice when it's just nice and quiet in the wrist. That's when it's very elegant. Timing-wise, most of the time the pole should actually touch the snow after you started the edge change, after you started to roll off of the old edges onto the new edges. In bumps, perhaps it's a little bit earlier. In steeps, perhaps it's a little bit earlier. But the other important thing about pole timing is not so much when it touches the snow, but when you start to swing forward. And what happens is people make the turn, and then they say, oh gosh, I got to make another turn. So they decide they're going to make another turn. They look at the place, and then they start to swing the pole forward. And that pole forward swing takes about 8 feet, and by the time all this is done, they're in the woods. So what happens is my best turns, while I'm finishing my right turn around the corner, the pole swing is coming through. So right at the very end of that turn, the pole is ready to go. It marks the end of the old turn and the beginning of the new turn at the same time.